Hello and welcome to HITC Sport, and today I'm looking at current Premier League players who've been compared to legends. We all love a comparison. I mean, we've made a whole career out of it here at HITC. Seriously, who cares about obscure X Factor finalists? But today I'm going to go through every Premier League club and pick out a player who's been compared to a legend in years gone by. And speaking of legends, there are none bigger than Diego Maradona. Rest in peace to one of the greatest players the world has ever seen. He was a flawed genius, but a genius all the same, and he will always be in the conversation for the greatest of all time. If you haven't already, check out Alfie's fantastic tribute to the great man over on HITC 7s after this. But back to today's video, Arsenal, Thomas Partey compared to Patrick Vieira. Ever since Patrick Vieira left Arsenal, the Gunners have been looking for the next one. They had Gilberto Silva, who did a similar albeit more limited job, but since he departed, the Gunners have been left with a gaping hole in their midfield. Multiple players have tried to fill the void, and so many have failed. Granit Xhaka, ALEKSANDAR, Denilson, Abu Diaby, Emmanuel Frimpong, a plethora of players who flopped when tasked with being the driving force and protective face in the Arsenal midfield. Now the pressure's on Thomas Partey, probably the closest player Arsenal have had to Vieira since he left 15 years ago. Christ, 15 years to replace one player. How bad is Arsenal's recruitment? And what made them think spaghetti legs Abu Diaby or Denchman Frimpong would be able to fill the void? Aston Villa, Jack Grealish compared to Paul Gascoigne. While on this channel he's often compared to chewing gum under your desk or dog poo on your shoe, not by me of course, Jack Grealish recently drew comparisons to one of England's greatest. Whilst on international duty, Jack Grealish's incredible performances saw him likened to Paul Gascoigne, probably the most naturally gifted player this country has ever seen. England can build a team around him, and the fact Grealish has been compared to him shows how much he impressed. Will he become England's new Gaza? I'm gonna say no, as it seems like a miracle just getting him in the starting 11, never mind the focal point of the whole damn team. Brighton, Neal Maupay compared to Wayne Rooney. Does this mean Neal Maupay is going to get knocked out by Tariq Lamptey, become France's all-time leading goal scorer, head to America then wangle his way at the Derby job? I'm gonna guess no. But back when he was 16, Maupay was being compared to Wayne Rooney, and you can kinda see why. Obviously the Brighton man's nowhere near as good, but he's a fiery forward with an eye for goal, and he isn't shy of a scrap or two. Just stay away from the grannies, won't you, Neil? Burnley, Dwight McNeil to Ryan Giggs. An old school winger who loves putting crosses into the box and actually modelled himself on Ryan Giggs, the comparisons between Dwight McNeil and the Wales manager are pretty obvious when you think about it. But Dwight, whatever you do, don't go the whole hog and make sure you stay away from your brother's lass, if you've got a brother. Chelsea, Mason Mount compared to Frank Lampard. It's no wonder Frank Lampard likes to pick Mason Mount so much, he's like the son he never had. I wouldn't be surprised if he's asked wife Christian if she'd include Mason Mount in his Christmas bubble. But it's easy to see the comparisons between Lampard and Mount. Lampard was a clever player who moved the ball accurately and timed his runs to perfection, which is exactly what Mount's starting to become. He'll have some job trying to eclipse his manager though, who scored more goals than most strikers did back in the day. Crystal Palace, Wilfried Zaha compared to Matt Le Tissier. This has got nothing to do with playing style really, more about where Zaha plays. The Ivory Coast international has long been linked with a move away from Selhurst Park, where he's been the talisman for so long. He's a huge fish in a little pond, growing year after year while the pond remains the same. But should he test himself at a higher level, or will he continue down the Matt Le Tissier route and remain a legend at one club? Le Tissier could have done it at a higher level, but whatever you do, Wilf, don't completely emulate the Southampton forward. His takes on Twitter are colder than a Domino's pizza left to rot in the street. Everton, Dominic Calvert-Lewin to Cristiano Ronaldo. I know Ronnie's still playing, but he's already a legend, isn't he? And one of the greatest of all time has seen his ability compared to Everton forward Dominic Calvert-Lewin. The striker's transformed in the past 12 months, particularly this season. He's been lethal in front of goal, especially in the air. And his heading ability has seen teammate Richarlison compare Calvert-Lewin to the Juventus superstar. In an interview, the Brazilian said he must be a nightmare to play against and has an incredible leap on him like Cristiano Ronaldo. So basically, Calvert-Lewin can jump like Ronaldo, but that's basically it. Better than most I guess. The only thing I've got in common is that I breathe the same air as Ronaldo. Fulham, Alexander Mitrovic compared to Alan Shearer. As soon as Mitrovic joined Newcastle all those years ago, the Alan Shearer comparisons were inevitable. He claimed Shearer was his idol, and he tried to play in a similar way to the Premier League's all-time leading goal scorer. But come on, Alan Shearer and Alexander Mitrovic don't have much in common. Big Al would never let some young kid take a penalty off him just to Panenka it into the keeper's hands. Leeds, Calvin Phillips to Andrea Pirlo. I mean, he's called the Yorkshire Pirlo, what more do you want from me? Leicester City, Kasper Schmeichel to Peter Schmeichel. I'm quite ashamed that when I was planning this video, it took me ages to think of someone for Leicester. I mean, of course Kasper Schmeichel gets compared to his dad. It happens pretty much every time he steps onto a pitch. Look at Kasper giving the defenders a bollocking just like his dad. What a save by Kasper, learned that from his dad. Kasper Schmeichel's a great goalkeeper, but not on the level his dad was. He was one of the best we've ever seen in the Premier League. The comparison will never stop between Kasper and Peter though, but if they start when he's lying in bed with his wife, that's when the Leicester man needs to worry. Liverpool's Jordan Henderson compared to Steven Gerrard. As soon as Jordan Henderson took the captain's armband off Steven Gerrard, the comparisons were always coming. But can you really compare the two? One of them's a Premier League winner and the other's Steven Gerrard. That's probably where the comparison ends, to be honest, because no matter how many more trophies Henderson wins with Liverpool, I just can't see any way he'll match the abilities of Steven Gerrard. He was world class at one point in time. It was just a shame his teammates were about as useful as a left-handed screwdriver. Manchester City Phil Foden compared to Zinedine Zidane. Whether it's that ludicrous mid-air Cruyff turn or Michael Owen comparing his dribbling ability to the mercurial Frenchman, it's easy to see why Foden's abilities have been likened to the Real Madrid manager. I mean, he's about a foot shorter and still has some hair on his head, but sure, why not? But if Phil Foden goes full Zidane and headbutts someone in the World Cup final to cost England, I'm going to be absolutely livid. Man United Bruno Fernandes compared to Paul Scholes. It might just be because of the number 18 shirt, but there's been loads of comparisons between Bruno Fernandes and one of the worst tacklers in the history of the game. Okay, that's a bit much. Like Scholes, Fernandes moves the ball quickly and tries to make things happen, although Scholes was so humble to actually compare the current Red Devil to former City rival David Silva. Either way, I don't think any of them have scored as many penalties as Bruno. Christ's heat map's probably just a permanent red dot from 12 yards out. Newcastle United Alain Saint-Maximin to David Ginola. Newcastle United love a French winger. David Ginola, Alain Saint-Maximin, Laurent Robert, Hatem Ben Arfa, Gabriel Obertan not so much. But ever since Saint-Maximin arrived at St James's Park, there's been comparisons to sexy David Ginola, who was an important player under Kevin Keegan back in the day. Both players are adored on Tyneside for their carefree playing style, but sorry Alan, you'll never be as gloriously handsome as David Ginola, and I think deep down you know it too. Sheffield United Oliver Burke to Gareth Bale. Obviously Gareth Bale's still playing today in the Premier League, but the man's already a Welsh legend, and probably a golf legend too, what a drive. But back in the day, a young Ollie Burke was compared to Bale because of his electric pace, a comparison that Burke thought was unfair. At least the Scot was never in denial, and over his career he's proven to everyone that he's indeed nothing like Gareth Bale. Southampton James Ward-Prowse to David Beckham. As soon as he started whipping free kicks into the top corner every week, the comparisons between James Ward-Prowse and the other free kick superstars were inevitable, but there's been loads between the same skipper and David Beckham, mainly just because he's English. But who's better? For my money it's Ward-Prowse, as the whip and power he gets is just out of this world. Luckily Beckham had other strings to his bow, and a pop star wife. Maybe Ward-Prowse needs to marry someone from the biggest girl band around nowadays. Are any Little Mix still available? They love a footballer. Tottenham Son Heung-min compared to Ronaldo. When Sonny ran the length of the pitch and scored that stunner against Burnley, Jose Mourinho couldn't help but compare it to a goal that he saw OG Ronaldo score for Barcelona way back in the day. Sonaldo is what Jose Mourinho's son calls the South Korean. I mean, Jose, have a word with your boy, you can do better than that. I suppose it's better than Phil Neville though, who just compared Son to the only other South Korean player he knows, Park Jae-sung. West Brom Grady Diangana to Santi Cazorla. Different kind of players, but a couple of years ago, Manuel Pellegrini noticed similarities between Diangana and Santi Cazorla. Both players earned their way into Pellegrini's teams when they were just teenagers, despite being surrounded by senior players. Hopefully that's where the similarities end, as I'd hate for Diangana to have the same injury bother, and anyway, I bet there's no way he'll ever be able to take corners with both feet. West Ham Andrei Yarmolenko to Arjen Robben. This was a bit of a tenuous link from Tony Cascarino a few years ago. Andrei Yarmolenko's got a lovely left peg and often plays in the right wing, but I don't think that means you can just compare him to Arjen Robben. The levels are a bit different. You knew shit was about to go down whenever Robben cut in, whereas Yarmolenko might shank one at the top corner or the top row of the stadium. I'm left footed and I like cutting in. Does that mean I'm like Arjen Robben too, Tony? Does it, Tony? He's gone. He's not listening. And finally Wolves, Connor Cody to Virgil van Dijk. Not retired but a legend in Liverpool eyes, will Jamie Carragher please stop with comparing Connor Cody to Virgil van Dijk? Sure, the Wolves man's done great since leaving Liverpool and reinventing himself as a centre half, but come off it, Virgil van Dijk is the best in the world. It's like saying Gino D'Acampo is as good a presenter on Family Fortunes as Les Bloody Dennis. Our survey says, you're wrong Jamie, now get your head out his backside. So there we go, that's every Premier League club's player who gets compared to a legend. Let me know what you think in the comments below. As always, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to HITC Sport. And until next time, we will see you around.